Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be looking at the throat chakra, also known as the Vishuddha chakra in Sanskrit. So the chakras within our body are an energy system. We have 7 traditionally, but overall some people say that we have up to thousands. Some people say that every point in our body has some form of energy center. But within this series, we're only going to be exploring the 7 chakras. What do they mean? What energy is associated with them? What emotion is here? And how can we work on maybe clearing these chakras, or at least awareness is really what that is, also to figure out what might be going on within your body, maybe where you might have energy congested, because usually in energy work we never want to say energy blockages. People always freak out when they hear energy blockage, the energy's blocked. So at least the way that I learned it was, we don't tell people, clients, if you're working with clients, that the energy is blocked. I like to say congested, the energy is focused in this area, usually for some probably trauma related reason, programming related reason, societal reason, all these things. So we want to clear these because eventually we want to be operating out of all of these chakras in a quote unquote balanced way. But really what it is you want to integrate the lower chakra wounds. So if you guys have been following the series so far, we went over a lot of the lower chakra wounds, things that keep us chained and quote unquote trapped. Once again, another one of the terms that maybe makes people freak out. But regardless, they kind of keep us pulled down into the overall material plane, into the wounding, into the fears, into the animalistic way of being. We want to go into the higher chakras. So from the throat chakra onward, these are our spiritual chakras. Some people say that the throat chakra is the most spiritual chakra. Makes sense. It is your voice. It's going to be your self-expression. It's going to be basically your truth. Now, the chakras originate from the Vedas. That is the first findings of them. So the Vedas are an ancient text in India way back. Now, in modern day, you'll probably hear about them a lot in the New Age, actually. So you'll hear about them maybe if you're interested in doing Reiki or even in yoga as well. But something important to keep in mind is that a lot of New Age concepts do originate from original spiritual texts. With that being said, in this video, I'll give you guys some background information on the throat chakra, but I'll also give you guys my own personal findings. So as usual, you guys can take what resonates, leave behind what does not. They're my own findings, either through myself or through clients back in the day when I actually used to do Reiki. They're just observations overall in the world, within people, how people operate. And I'm sure in a lot of my videos, even when I go live, I do mention the chakras a lot. For me, it is a focus point. So that is kind of how I personally get to psychic information. In yoga, we have something called the drishti, the gaze. So that's when you're really trying to focus on your posture and you're trying to basically distract yourself out of your body and focus on a point. And it kind of gets you into this meditative state. Well, for me personally, when I learn information, that is my focal point. So I focus on that information. I kind of bring it back in. For anyone who is interested in doing psychic work, this is a good way to kind of compartmentalize things. And once again, the energy will be drawn to that particular thing. If you're focusing maybe on someone's energy or on a situation or whatever it is, you basically need to focus on that energy to get more information to come through. So with all that being said, let's get into the throat chakra. So the throat chakra is located in your throat space. It's your voice, it's your self-expression, like I mentioned. It's interesting because I have heard that the throat chakra is one of the most spiritual chakras, if not the spiritual chakra within our body. It makes sense if you really do think about it. I mean, at the end of the day, we are human, so we always want to think something's better or worse or higher or more or whatever it is. But it makes sense in a way if you think about it. This is your voice. So your voice is super important. I do believe that everyone has some form of story at the end of the day. When people have a story, maybe something you went through, maybe something you experienced, and you share it with other people, we're not only transmuting the energy for yourself by sharing that thing, but you're also helping other people who maybe have been in a similar situation as you, or people who might resonate with you overall. Let's say it's just your overall life experience on this earth plane, and you're sharing and you're communicating using your throat chakra. Well, in that situation, you're elevating the vibration in a way, once again, for yourself and for the collective, and you're putting it out there. That's the thing, you're kind of putting it out there. You can kind of see it as a ripple effect. This is kind of how I psychically see it. When a drop goes into like a puddle or whatever it is, you kind of see the ripple expanding and expanding and expanding. That's kind of how I see the throat chakra. Now, what's really interesting is on the earth plane, we actually speak. We use words. We actually have that voice. When we think about animals, with them, it's more so sounds or maybe even frequency. Maybe they have a way of speaking that we can't necessarily hear or understand, but really hear because you never see them speaking to each other. They're kind of just like chilling there unless maybe they're fighting or calling for help or defending themselves. But regardless, it's like usually when we look at animals, they're not really speaking. So animals probably either have their own frequency where we can't hear it, just like maybe how they can see some colors that we're able to see. Well, same thing, maybe they have their own frequency of speaking, but also maybe they're telepathic. And this is really, really interesting because I always saw us as we go into the higher and higher vibrations, we become more and more telepathic, because really speaking and using that voice, as important as it is to this particular plane, and it pertains to this particular plane and the vibration that we are at the same time, it uses up a lot of energy. So you'll see the younger children and the younger generations that are being born, or even children who maybe have struggled with speech or maybe didn't speak for a while. It makes sense that they're quote unquote higher vibrational, or they're coming maybe from a higher plane. Once again, just my own opinion. This isn't fact or anything of that sort. This is just the way that I see it. So they come from these higher planes and higher places where they don't technically need to speak. And it's interesting because you will notice the more you get into the psychic chakras, which are your third eye and your crown, and the more you start to work with these psychic energies, everything comes down to thought and it comes down to telepathy. So we really, really are telepathic at the end of the day. Maybe I'm going a little bit into the crown and the third eye in this video, but at least it's going to be like a little trailer preview for the video to come where we start talking more about the psychic gifts and abilities. But I'm sure you guys have maybe noticed or experienced in your own lives where it's like you think of someone and they call you, or they message you, or you bump into them. That's that telepathic vibe that's going on. So it's really interesting to see, because it's like the throat chakra is important, the voice is important, but at the same time, it's something that kind of pertains to this particular physical plane. So regardless, I'm not going to take you guys too much into the crown. I'm just kind of slipping that in there. We're going to go back to the throat chakra, coming back down into this physical plane and into this physical reality. So speaking is really, really important, okay? Speaking your truth is going to be the most important thing. And I've noticed that, like, you know, in terms of vibrational frequency, if you guys ever see those little pictures, they're always going to kind of put love at one of the highest vibrations. But personally, the way that I have seen it is that authenticity and your truth are even higher than that. So it's like when you're speaking something that you truly, truly believe, this makes you even higher vibrational in a way. This isn't really a hierarchy. This is just your own vibration. The more you live in your truth, the more you do what you truly, truly believe in your heart, in your soul, it's going to kind of bring you higher into those higher vibrations. And in a way, it's a shield if you think about it. That's interesting because when we're looking at a person who is growing and healing and clearing, a lot of these things, when we look at like the lower chakra wounds, are either ancestral, or they have been placed upon us, or it's just kind of been the experience from incarnation on this earth plane. So once you clear a lot of those things, you get to the root of the soul, is really what that is. And what I mentioned in the previous videos is when you have the lower chakras balance and the upper three chakras balance, you're operating out of that heart space. And in that sense, you're at that quote unquote higher vibration and higher frequency that everyone talks about. But it's really, really important to understand that when we are healing and clearing and purging and transmuting and all these things, you have to go from the bottom up. Okay, that's what's really, really important. Now, what I've noticed, this is once again my own observation, is that the chakras do work together. So I've noticed that when you have a strong solar plexus, which is a strong core, a strong identity, belief in yourself, confidence, you know, you've kind of integrated that abandonment wound, you don't really care, it's really that vibe. I mean, it's interesting whether people talk about it spiritually or just like in like layman's terms. We have books out there like that book called I Don't Give an F or something like that, like The Secret of Not Giving an F. But at the end of the day, these things are always attractive to other people because a lot of people do care, okay? And that's all solar plexus things, and that's all things that we want to integrate and transmute. And the more that you develop that strong solar plexus, I always kind of see it like an armor. In that case, then you're able to speak. You're able to speak your truth. But it's a chicken and the egg always. Sometimes you have to start speaking to develop that solar plexus. This is kind of how these chakras work. Overall, when we're clearing and we're healing, you do want to go from the bottom up to clear and heal. But you'll notice that you might bounce between chakras, and you'll see a lot of the time the area that you might struggle in the most in your life, this is just my own observation, is the exact area that you're either meant to be mastering, or it's part of your purpose in one way, shape, or form. So if you do struggle with speech in one way, shape, or form, whether that is literally struggling with speech, or if it's like actually feeling maybe like you're not heard, or maybe struggling to express your own opinion and put it out there, well, in that case, you kind of have to go into self-reflection. You'd have to be like, okay, well, why am I struggling to speak and speak my truth and share my story? There's something probably going on there, whether it is an abandonment wound, whether it is a rejection wound, whether it is just like having different opinions in society or family or friends, whatever it is. At the end of the day, if you have some form of belief system, or once again, maybe you're sharing some sort of story, or you have developed some form of belief system for yourselves, whether it's through life experiences, the peaks and the troughs and like all these types of things, well, in that particular case, it's there for a reason. That's kind of how I see things. This is why I love listening to all kinds of people, because it's like, in a way, whether a person has a belief system you agree with or not, there's something still there that took place to make that person believe that thing. Because of this, I like listening to people, because then I kind of go into like the scorpionic vibe of like, why do they think that way? What took place to make them think that way? Where does it come from? But at the end of the day, there is truth to everything. Everyone has some form of different different truth, and a lot of the time people's truth comes from their life experience. So it's like the more you speak, the more you'll kind of attract your vibe, people who resonate with you. These days with the internet, we're blessed. I always say this time and time again, we are blessed with the internet because it's easier to reach people, more people than maybe back in the day when maybe people lived in like smaller communities and we're kind of just like within that community, and maybe back then you had an opinion that was different than the community and maybe you would have been ostracized from the community. So this is what I mean by like sometimes it's ancestral, so it's like things that have been passed down. This is a wound that does exist as well within the throat chakra, maybe speaking and then fear of being persecuted, like that kind of comes down from that existing once upon a time. You can go into the past life aspect of it as well, but it's kind of like once again chicken or the egg, because it's like yes, it could be past life, but maybe it's just in the ancestral line as well. But regardless, wherever it comes from, it still is a collective wound. I do find that this particular wound, it does pertain more so to the feminine energy, and the feminine energy speaking out and speaking more so on feminine energy types of topics. It doesn't really matter what gender you were born into. This is more so within the energy. So within the energetic feminine energy collective, this is one of the wounds that does exist. So there's a lot of reasons why people might fear speaking, but the thing is, then the throat chakra quote unquote gets congested, or you might be going into another chakra because you're not speaking your truth. So it's really all connected. Same thing, like sometimes saying no, or like asserting your boundaries, or just like saying I don't want to do that. Like even people who might struggle with people pleasing. See how the throat chakra and the solar plexus are connected. Let's say people who struggle with people pleasing, it's like, well, why do you struggle with people pleasing? Well, in that case, it could be maybe an abandonment wound, or you want everybody to like you, so then you kind of have to go deeper. Where does that come from? So in that case, you might struggle to speak up. You can even see things like, for example, let's say you are at a restaurant and there's a hair in your food. Maybe in that particular situation, you're actually meant to speak up and say, hey, there's something in my food, but you don't. And then you have to reflect. What is holding me back? Why don't I want to speak up? So this is kind of how it starts off. Anytime when I would look at chakras, or like healing the chakras, or like really clearing a lot of these things, I would call it like tests. So like a certain situation will come up and it would be, let's say, a throat chakra test or a solar plexus chakra test. So in these types of situations, you know, I'm kind of giving you guys like everyday examples, and then you'll see it how it kind of goes from the micro into the macro. We kind of see this playing out on both levels, and you'll notice this is why, let's say, TikTok has been amazing, because it's been a huge throat chakra opening in the collective. People are really clearing their throat chakras through the app. Once again, doesn't matter what people's opinions are, it's still being cleared and purged. And then it's interesting to see, because it's like then someone says something, maybe it triggers another person, then that person has to wonder where that trigger is coming from. Is it ancestral once again? So this is really what a purge is. You'll see also, like, let's say someone who maybe had their voice suppressed when they were young, for whatever reason they weren't able to speak up. It's very much like a pendulum swing, like you will see within people when they are healing. Like let's say they went through a period where they weren't able to say anything or express themselves, or struggled with expression. Also, we have the struggle of expressing emotions as well. In that case, we would look at maybe the throat chakra and the sacral chakra, or maybe the throat chakra and the heart space. Why are we struggling to express emotions in a particular situation? Once again, you kind of have to dig deep. Where does the wounding come from? If it is a sacral chakra wound, in that particular case, maybe you were shamed for your emotions when you were growing up. Maybe certain things were told to you. This person doesn't cry, you shouldn't cry, or you're crying too much, or whatever it is. Like these types of societal things, or whether it was the friends. So it could start off with the two caregivers, but then you kind of go off into society, and then it ends up being society. So you'll see within people when they have that disconnect sometimes between expressing, let's say, even their emotions. And that could also be connected to the solar plexus, okay? Because once again, maybe people fear expressing how they're feeling because of the fear of rejection. So this is really how everything is connected, and this is why I'm making these videos, because I'm trying to draw awareness and attention to how, first of all, everything is connected, everything is playing a part, and how we can kind of clear these things to come basically into that ultimate truth, into that self-alignment of whatever your own truth is. Obviously, at the end of the day, as long as it is something that is heart-centered, okay, this is the most important thing to keep in mind. You want it to be heart-centered. You want it to be something that is in the heart space. This is why, once again, we go through the chakras, because sometimes you have people who are maybe a lot in the solar plexus, but in the shadow, maybe they're in the ego or narcissism, and maybe they have really open throat chakras, but maybe they are speaking words of hate or anger or lies, okay? So this is another thing too. So all these things in a way can affect the throat chakra, and you'll notice within people that basically whatever is taking place with their chakra, like whichever chakra it is in this video is going to be the throat chakra, whatever's taking place with their throat chakra, you will either hear it in their voice, or you will see that something's going on with the throat space. Let's say clearing the throat a lot. Something is going on in the throat space. Disclaimer, I am not a medical professional, but I do truly believe that everything is connected to the energetic stand standpoint of what's happening energetically within the person, because we do have the 4 bodies. Some people are going to say 7. Doesn't matter. Once again, we're kind of just using it as a focal point for getting the information out of the astral plane. So if we look at the 4 bodies within a person, we have the spiritual body, mental body, emotional body, and then we have that physical body. So by the time something hits the physical plane, it has already gone through all of these 4 bodies. So spiritual body, it's lingering around in the astral plane. It turns into a thought. You get an idea, okay, to do something. And then the more you think about something, you add emotion to it, okay? Because energy and motion is emotion. And then after this whole process, only then it hits the physical plane. So anytime there's anything happening in the physical plane, physical reality, physically, like all these types of things, it's already gone through this whole process. So me personally, when I'm observing something that's taken place in the physical plane, I'm already going back to see what was maybe that initial point. A lot of the time, if people are having issues of some sort, let's say in this particular situation, maybe it is a throat chakra issue in one way, shape, or form. Maybe it is a cough. Honestly, I will say for cough, it is connected to the heart space as well from my own observations. But whatever might be taking place with the throat chakra, I can't give too many examples in this video because once again, I'm not a medical professional. So some of you guys might have to read between the lines. But whatever is taking place here, there's something that has originated from one of these 4 bodies. A lot of the time, and I don't want to shoot you guys too much into your crown chakra in this video, but it is what it is. It's coming through, so I will mention it. A lot of the time, like our own thoughts aren't even our own. There's something that's implanted either in the astral plane or societal programming or things that we have seen on TV or just through programming, whether once again it was passed down through the family line or your friends or etc. Like whatever it was. So that's why sometimes it's challenging, because it's challenging sometimes to get to the root of something because you might not even know where it originated from. I hope you guys are following. But regardless, like whatever it is, everything starts out in the spiritual plane and then it turns into a thought. That's important to understand. So this is why it's really important to get down to the person, get down to the soul. If you have time, you're blessed. Okay, that's the biggest privilege in this life, is to have time to be able to sit with the self and really start to explore all these things. Who am I at my core? Is this my thought even? Is this my belief even? Where is this coming from? Do I actually believe it? So this is why discernment is really, really important. And this is where that heart chakra comes through, and even the intuition aspect of things. So right now in the collective, this is just my own observation. How many times can I say that in this video? But regardless, like in the collective, I feel like we're at peak wounding. And I'm not going to get too metaphysical in this particular video of how that is basically taking place. But really, at the end of the day, all we can do is control ourselves and just have self-awareness and really try to understand who we truly are at the soul level. What is it that we want to do and what's in that heart resonance? Okay, so that heart resonance is never going to lead you astray. And that's what's going to kind of help you take off all of these layers of energetic programming is really what that is. So if you're struggling with the throat chakra, a few ways for you to kind of see that you might be struggling in this area is maybe clearing your throat all the time. You'll notice with people who have really like soft voices or really quiet voices, I always know there's something there that took place where they weren't able to speak, or once again, it's a program where it's like this type of voice sounds better if it's quieter. So keep that in mind as well. The words you speak are going to be really, really important. So if you speak negative words, it's going to basically affect the throat space. And it's interesting, an example, because I used to teach this as a class back in the day when I would do it in person, and it was called Open Your Chakras. And the example that I used for the throat chakra was Robert, K-A-R-D-S-H-I-A-N. Okay, so the dad, okay, that has crossed out. I hope you guys are following. So talking in code a little bit here. And it's interesting to me because it's like he was very well known on a particular case. Once again, you guys are going to have to read between the lines. But overall, he was a lawyer, right? And I don't want to say all lawyers are liars, but sometimes you kind of have to spin things around, twist the truth around, and these types of things to maybe win the case or find the loophole or whatever it is. So I found it really, really interesting that what he crossed out from, speaking between the lines once again, okay? So some of you guys might have to Google what was the reason of him crossing out. Well, it was throat chakra related. And I found this interesting because he was on the biggest case. So it's like, see what I mean? It's like the lying or the not telling truth, or who knows, maybe he just spoke negative words overall with his throat chakra. Like there's something that was going on there with the throat chakra. I'm not trying to put fear out there. I'm not saying that if there's an issue with the throat chakra, you're going to end up in that way. Absolutely not. I'm just drawing attention to the fact that there's something that's connected here energetically, the way that you are, the way that you behave, maybe fears or whatever it is, like all of these negative things, shadow traits, right? That might eventually manifest into something else. I hope you guys are catching my drift, but that's the whole thing here. So that's how you'll know something's going on with your throat chakra. You might be faced with situations where you might have to speak up, or you might really be interested in like writing or speaking, but there could be something that's holding you back. You kind of have to go through that self-exploration journey to see what is holding me back from speaking my truth. A lot of the time, it's really connected to fear of rejection or like not fitting in with the overall crowd, because that particular fear is actually connected to the fear of death when you're not accepted by people and by society. So if you're able to break through that particular fear, you are good to go. It's really what it is. So that's the biggest thing here with the throat chakra. I know I forgot to mention the element for the throat chakra. I have been mentioning in these videos the elements that are connected to the chakras for the throat chakra as per Google. So I just looked it up. It said it was ether, and the color of the throat chakra is the blue color. Now the thing is, once again, we want to use these things as focal points to kind of see what could be going on energetically within our bodies and the area that we might have to focus on clearing to come into more of that truth, into more of that purpose, into more of that authenticity. Because when you're in that vibration, you're automatically vibrating love. And the thing is like everything's coming towards you, okay? Because you're in truth. This is kind of how in the higher vibrations, there really is no resistance to quote unquote manifest or bring things through. But it's like on this earth plane, there's a lot of things that have been imposed on people to not get to that point. So we basically want to reverse that. So I'm going to wrap up this video here on the throat chakra. I do hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.